Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Yes, it's the Skeptic Zone podcast, episode number 494 for the 8th of April 2018. Richard Saunders here with you from the middle of the sun, the surface of the sun, some pit of hell. Well, don't mind me, it's just that this long summer doesn't seem to want to go away. We've had record-breaking heat for this time of the year in Sydney. It's warm outside, toasty warm, not so humid, which is a good thing. But, I think I'm looking forward to cooler days, surely just ahead. But I notice in the UK they've had extremely cold weather for this time of the year. In fact, my sister and her family are visiting relatives in Scotland right now. Edinburgh, what a wonderful place that is. And she's been sending back pictures of snow-capped hills around Edinburgh. And one of my niece holding a giant snowball, probably in preparation for a snowball fight. But you don't want to hear about the weather in Sydney and Edinburgh, or maybe you do, I don't know. What's coming up on this week's episode of the Skeptic Zone? We're going to start in a moment with an update, an overview, an addition to the prediction project I've been mentioning for some time now and you heard about last week. I'm going to read out, before we get stuck into the show proper, one of the predictions, or one of the series of predictions that I've been dealing with from an astrologer called Milton Black, who bills himself as Australia's leading astrologer and psychic. And it might give you an idea as to some of the work that goes behind the scenes in doing something like this prediction project, because it's not only collating the predictions, which you would have heard last week. Once we have the predictions, it's trying to make sense of them and seeing whether or not they're true or false or wrong or right or too vague, or if a prediction is a 50-50 shot, like if somebody's expecting, will it be a boy or a girl? And sometimes you're left scratching your head whether it's a prediction you can actually categorize or not. We'll get to that soon. And who knows, you might be able to offer some insights. After that, it's a story that made the news here last week, where a naturopath has been sent to prison to do some prison time for bad advice she gave to a client, which almost resulted in the death of a baby. Not quite, but almost. A cautionary tale, I think this story is. Following that, it's a radio segment, the last radio segment I did on Talking Lifestyle, the network known as Talking Lifestyle, and that network, or that particular station on the Macquarie network, is now defunct. Well, no, not quite. It changed from a talk-based radio station into a sports-based radio station. So instead of talk back, morning breakfast with talk back, and then more or less advertorials through the daytime news, now it's 24-hour sports. Nevertheless, for the last 6 months, I've been going on there every Tuesday morning to talk about all sorts of things, mostly classical skepticism, UFOs and Bigfoot and Yowies in Australia anyway, alternative medicine. So I thought I would play to you my very last appearance on the morning show with John Stanley and Garry Linnell. And I'm sorry that relationship is now over. It was very enjoyable, of course, to be on radio every week and spread the skeptical message. After that, it's a special report from our friend Susan Gerbic from Guerrilla Skepticism, who went along to a Skepticamp in Colorado. And I'm very grateful that she decided, or had the forethought to take something to record, and she did some interviews. And I think Skepticamp is a great idea. I've been to many now in Sydney. I don't think there's been one for a little while, but I've been to Skepticamps in Sydney. In Manchester, I've been to a Skepticamp. In Melbourne, I think I've been to a Skepticamp or two. They're a wonderful idea, and they're a great way for new people to be introduced to skepticism. Anyway, some interviews from Skepticamp in Colorado coming up later in the show with Susan Gerbic. Then to round off the show, some news about the upcoming March for Science. March for Science next weekend, and there'll be one here in Sydney. I'll be relating some details that I discovered on the March for Science website, details specific to Australia, but I think you can check out or Google March for Science in your particular area. But now let's have a look at this particular forecast by Milton Black, and I have many, I have many of these forecasts to try and make sense of. This particular one comes from 2010. Milton Black, Australia's leading astrologer and psychic. Astroview, it says. Milton is renowned for his uncanny and accurate forecasts on world politics and economics. Many a politician, economist and trade has visited his website and read the monthly predictions concerning future global economical trends, including subsequent stock market directions and positive overtones. His predictions are astonishingly accurate. There you go. This one is from November 2010. There you are, November 2010. Keeping abreast of the times with astrology, November 2010. This is how the planets may influence the trends in the cycle ahead. So any economists out there who remember this time in history? The monthly astrological forecast. With the aggressive planet Mars whizzing through the speculative and spendthrift sign of Sagittarius this month, be prepared for some major activity happening at the marketplace and be ready for some surprising news regarding the global economy, interest rates, banking, housing market, employment, oil and resources. During November, the global money market will be running rampant, and with the US Federal Reserve showing future signs of additional monetary policy and interest rate tightening, especially during the 17th to the 30th, be prepared. The USA is showing a slight economic recovery period this month. Cautious confidence will be seen and trading will be vigorous on global markets. However, this is predicted to be short-lived. I hope you're taking notes. Unfortunately, the US midterm elections will throw a whammy into the Democratic camp as Mars co-joins and then crosses the ascendant of the USA horoscope. The USA horoscope, the whole country has a horoscope. The USA horoscope striking up an array of opposition against the Democrats by local constituents in various states over the current government's handling of the dollar, general cost of living, employment, taxation, housing, education and health. Saturn is also not far away from meeting with the USA natal Saturn, and this will influence a major long turning point for America as the economy is pruned and restructured. Seriously, I hope you're taking notes. There are many more paragraphs. I'll just read one more so you don't have a meltdown in your car or walking the dog. With Mars remaining in Sagittarius until the first week of December. Now, this is something that can be checked up on, I think. With Mars remaining in Sagittarius until the first week of December and following close behind the communication planet Mercury, investors will be chewing at the bit. Chewing at the bit, I think that's saying is champing at the bit anyway. Deciding whether to buy or sell stock as the market fluctuates quite aggressively. Profits can be made this month if care is taken. The most interesting and tense week will be during the 15th through the 21st, and especially Wednesday the 17th to Friday the 19th. The dollar is expected to rise during this period, and trading will also be showing signs of a constructive rally. The best type of stock to consider this month would be those associated with resources, industrials, agriculture, transport, communications, media, infrastructure, service industries, oil and gold. With the global economy still fragile until March 15th, 2011, government bonds would also be a good option to consider. And it goes on for another full page talking about Pluto, Jupiter, taking care in November, and on it goes. This month will also be favourable and profitable for those associated or work with taxation, insurance, banking, credit management, education, research, medicine, dentistry. You should see my latest dentist bill. 2 crowns, I tell you what. Psychology, criminology, investigation, secret service, morticians. It goes on. Good days. The 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 8th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 18th, 20th and 30th. Cautious days. 6th, 7th, 9th, 10th, 17th, 19th. I won't go on. This is a good month for Cancer, Virgo, Scorpio, Capricorn, Pisces. Fair for Aries, Leo, Libra. Average for Taurus, Gemini, Sagittarius, Aquarius. Now, this is the abridged version of the advice given in November 2010 by Milton Black, Australia's leading astrologer and psychic, and I have collected about in the order of 60 or 70 of these predictions by using the Wayback Machine and taking copies of the website as published back then. So that's something I hope I can get through for this project and try to condense his writings into a simple prediction. I don't think I can do it. It's too long and rambling. Anyway, this is part of the ongoing process. If you're an economics guru and you can see something in that, good luck. Good luck. But we learned that the whole of the United States has a horoscope. Well. Well, that's enough for me at the moment. Boy, is that more than enough for me at the moment. I'm going to run downstairs. Have a nice cool glass of lemonade with extra ice, and break out one of my favourite ice creams, I think, Blue Ribbon Vanilla. Good old Blue Ribbon Vanilla ice cream. Perfect for a extremely warm autumn day. Well, I'm doing all that and trying to recover from reading that astrological economic prediction. I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone. Here's a report about a naturopath here in Australia named Marilyn Bodnar, who's just been sentenced to 14 months imprisonment with a 7-month non-parole period for endangering the life of a baby. In fact, if I look at news.com.au, there's a report there. Naturopath jailed in starving baby case. A naturopath who told a mother her baby vomiting was good for him has been sent to prison after the baby nearly died. Now, this is Candy Sutton reporting. She goes on to say, extreme diet naturopath Marilyn Bodnar has been sent to prison for her role in the baby starvation case. The 62-year-old seems stunned and reluctant to leave as prison officers entered the courtroom to take her downstairs after she was given a 14-month jail sentence. Told that she would have to accompany them to the cells below at Sydney's Downing Court, Bodnar said, "Now?" The report says that the judge took into consideration her age, 62, in considering the sentence, but he described her ongoing advice to a breastfeeding mother to continue on raw food until death was a couple of days away for the baby was highly criminal. The judge said that Bodnar had shown, quote, gross recklessness, end quote, and said alternative medicine practitioners had a responsibility not to harm others, particularly children. Now, it's also known that Bodnar in the 1980s was acquitted of manslaughter after one of her clients starved to death on an extreme diet. But in this case, she had advised the breastfeeding mother to cease eating anything other than raw vegetables, fruit and seeds to cure her baby's eczema. Bodnar is alleged to have told the boy's mother, who is a midwife, that vomiting was good because it purged the toxins that caused eczema. The judge also took into consideration that Since Bodnar had been fronting the court, she had been punished and suffered. Since July 2015, when she was arrested, the prosecutor in the case said that the community needed to be protected and that Bodnar had, quote, a blind adherence to her own ideology of alternative medicine. This blind allegiance was the cause of a child nearly dying, end quote, he told the court. Bodnar, who has an alternative medicine practice in Western Sydney, although I think that practice is now defunct, believes fasting can make incurable diseases miraculously go away. And we note the mother of the child was also sentenced to 14 months prison, but that was suspended. And harking back to the earlier case in the 1988, in 1988 Bodnar was charged with manslaughter over the death of a woman who drank only water for 63 days. Narelle Niemann, 42, lost more than one-third of her body weight under Bodnar's care, weighing less than 40 kilos when she died. A jury found Bodnar not guilty after she argued that she was helping the late Ms. Niemann as a friend, not a patient. And of course we hear cries of, well, why doesn't the naturopathic board do something? Well, there's really no such mechanism. And as often been said, anybody can hang a shingle outside their door and call themselves a naturopath. And we're under no illusions here, no doubt whatsoever, that Bodnar firmly believes in the woo she's been peddling now for, at least since the 1980s. We can't help wonder what other bad advice she has given over the years. And we also reflect on the fact that in the medical profession system here in Australia, and I'm sure in many other countries too, there are bodies and mechanisms in place to handle malpractice and bad advice and this sort of thing. But when it comes to something like naturopathy, where do you start? I mean, if they're using homeopathy, what is a homeopathic board going to come and say, oh, no, this cure doesn't really work in this case, or this isn't diluted enough, we better test it? It's really a nonsense. It's really a nonsense. And I've had people in the past make the following argument to me, that patients under the care of medical doctors suffer and die sometimes, which they do. Patients under the care of alternative medicine practitioners, naturopaths, suffer and die. Therefore, surely they're equal. Some people really do think like this. Now, if you were to look at it statistically, far more people would have adverse reactions under the care of medical doctors because far, far, far more people go to medical doctors, thousands and thousands. But I wonder what the percentage is. And also, a lot, from what I understand it, a lot of the so-called medication or procedures or recommendation naturopaths give to their clients or their patients can be seen as harmless anyway, especially if it's homeopathy with no side effects, because homeopathy has no effects. In this case, it's obvious. If you put somebody on a starvation diet, it can have terrible effects, and indeed terrible effects on the baby in the case. And this all reminds me of our friend Britt Hermes, who is currently living in Germany, and as you will recall from reports recently on the Skeptic Zone, was under the threat of legal action, or indeed has legal action, from her old naturopathic college. Now, getting back to this current story, it's not known if Bodnar will appeal her sentence. She's perfectly entitled legally to do that, and if they want to take that option, that's their right and their prerogative to do that. But currently, as it stands, she will serve at least 7 months of her sentence, and I think that means she'll be eligible for parole around about November. Again, I wasn't in the court. I don't know all the arguments back and forth the judge would have had to consider. But I think regardless, and I hope anyway, this does send a very strong message to alternative medicine practitioners that they are responsible, legally responsible, for the advice they give to their patients and the consequences. And if you're interested in reading the full report by Candace Sutton, I will add a link in this week's show notes.
From the dawn of time, one podcast has unlocked the secrets of science and technology to enrich the lives of billions. And now, after a year where they've unlocked the golden age of knowledge, they're about to hit warp speed and go stratospheric.
Wait, hold up.
On Oh No, Ross and Carrie, we don't make extraordinary claims, we investigate them.
We go undercover with fringe religious groups, investigate paranormal claims, and we participate in pseudoscientific medical treatments and then report our findings to you.
And yes, we've even investigated Scientology.
Shh, Ross, shh. New episodes every month at MaximumFun.org.
Oh No, Ross and Carrie. They show up so you don't have to.
Over the past 6 months or so, it's been my pleasure to be part of the breakfast radio program on Talking Lifestyle, a radio show that was networked through Sydney, Brisbane and Melbourne. Every Tuesday with John Stanley and Garry Linnell, I would get on and discuss matters of a skeptical nature, UFOs, mysteries, monsters, big cats, all sorts of things. That radio network has now changed to a 24-hour sports network, so last Tuesday was my last appearance on that particular program. Here's John Stanley and Garry Linnell.
Richard Saunders is our skeptic who joins us every Tuesday to run the rule over some of the things. Now, I got up very early today because it's been quite emotional the last few days, like a breakup. So I haven't been able to sleep, so I got up very early, and I'm trying to calm myself down. So I had a Radox bath salts. Now,
did it calm you down?
Yeah, it had the effect, but there's other things like essential oils, and there's music, and there's all sorts of things you can do, healing practices. So what's iridology? Have you heard of what iridology is?
I've heard about it, but I don't quite know what it is.
What about crystals?
Oh, they're up in Byron Bay, aren't they? Doesn't everyone have crystals where you rub them over your body or just above the body because they have some alleged healing power?
Now, do you reckon...
We're going to annoy a few people here.
No, but do you reckon on our last day, Richard Saunders from the Australian Skeptics, in the spirit of being glass half full, is going to come on and go, you know what? I've got an open mind about these things.
There could be something to it.
Let's find out. Hello, Richard.
Good morning. I'm sceptical about you guys leaving. What's all this?
Well,
we're off.
Who knows if it's a myth or not? Who knows, Richard?
It could be. It could be. Look, I'm not skeptical about many things. And you mentioned a nice bath. Doesn't matter what you put in it. If you do something in it and it feels nice and it relaxes you and it gives you peace of mind, meditation can do that. A nice massage can do that. Hot rocks on your back if it makes you feel better. It's fantastic. It's all good stuff. Then we look at, well, are they making more claims than that? Are they making more claims than it makes you feel better? If they claim it can cure diseases or it can do something fundamental like that, that's when our skeptical radar comes up.
Iridology, what is it?
This is the bogus practice of looking in your eye at the muscle, the pattern the muscle makes in your eye, and then giving you a diagnosis. Now, everyone's got a unique eye print. And these muscles in your eye means your eye contracts and expands when there's light. Yeah, we've all seen that. That's what the muscles do. And they make a very interesting pattern when you look closely. But some people think that they can study these patterns and say, oh, your heart's a bit dodgy there, or look, there's a liver problem coming up. I can see it in your eye. There's no science behind this whatsoever. It can be seen as a bit of harmless fun. But like many of these things, if you go along and you have a diagnosis, which isn't really, and they miss your cancer growing, you might delay going to see a real doctor. So there's lots of dodgy stuff out there.
I mean, the crystals are the one thing that always gets me. I mean, they're so widely used. There's a huge market for information about them on the web. I mean, but they don't do anything at all. Science has looked at crystals, hasn't it, and dismissed them.
Sure. Yes, well, crystals are used, I mean, they used them in the old days of crystal radio sets, but the science is very well understood how they can work in those sort of situations. Like everything else, they seem to be sort of new agey and natural and a bit mystical, so people have co-opted them into healing practices, you know, wear this crystal and it'll improve this energy, or wear this crystal to bring you luck, and if you're pregnant, you can have this crystal by your side. There's no science behind this. It's just a marketing ploy. And don't forget, if you put the word natural on something, it's a huge marketing boost. It doesn't actually have to mean anything. Asbestos is natural.
All right. Now, can I ask you a question in terms of this is our last chance? Now, I've bought the new on-field authentic Dragons jumper for season 2018. I wore it to game 1, and they won. We've now won 4 in a row. There's a little bit of a tomato sauce stain down the front of it.
How unusual.
The point is, my rule is I don't wash the jumper after a win because I figure it's got a bit of good luck. Should I risk it and wash the jumper and risk a loss next week, or should I just stick by and hope we go through like 1959 unbeaten?
I think you should ask your household about that before you don't wash your clothes. But just imagine all the other people at any particular football game also wearing what they consider to be lucky stains or lucky underpants or lucky socks on both teams. Does that mean that your stain is more powerful than the opposing team's stain?
You've obviously never been to a Collingwood game or a Tigers game.
That's right. They have a run of wins, and I'll tell you what, you can barely breathe.
Another thing, these magnets that people seem to use too, they're becoming increasingly popular. Do they stand up?
No. Both of you right now and the guy at the desk there, you're all wearing very powerful magnets right next to your head. If they had a biological effect on your body, you would be frying your brain or doing all sorts of crazy things. We're all surrounded by magnets. Again, it's like crystals. People have latched onto them and saying that they can cure all sorts of things. It's a big placebo effect. If magnets had that effect on the body, you would all be in big trouble. Me too, I've got a magnet next to me.
If things were pointing south, you could always get one of those strong magnets and make it point north.
You could try it, I suppose, yeah.
I'm talking about the belly, when it's sagging.
Good. All right.
Those saggy bits.
I find these things make my hearing improve, actually.
Oh, there you go.
The magnet must work.
Now, Richard, as a skeptic, do you have any superstitions of your own?
Come on.
Do you ever avoid the crack in the footpath or the black cat running across?
I do. I just, off the top of my head, I can't list them for you, but in day-to-day life, I might do something or not do something. That's just built in human nature. I can stop and study it and think, now, why am I doing this? Or I can just say, I'll just get on with my life and concentrate on more important things, trying to chase cancer quacks and things like that. Yeah, we all have superstitions.
Well, let me ask you, because I'm assuming you don't believe in the afterlife, is that right?
I would say I've got no evidence to support a belief in the afterlife.
Have you thought about what you might say when if you happen to go, you go, oh, hang on a minute, whoops, what would you say?
Depends on which god is greeting me.
That's right.
If it's Thor, he'd say, why haven't you been killing more people? If it's Poseidon, he'd say, why didn't you spend more time under the water? I don't know. Look, if it ever happens and I get there, I'll say, oh, well, I was sceptical, but there you go.
Well, I hope you don't get there before us, but if you do, can you send a message through?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Just in the tea leaves, Richard.
I'll do my best. If anybody wants to find out any more about Skeptics or claim our $100,000 prize, they can go to skeptics.com.au or skepticzone.tv.
Thank you so much, Richard. It's been great having you a part of the show, and we'll keep in touch. Thank you.
Continue questioning everything. Thank you, Richard.
Okay.
A big thank you to John Stanley and Garry Linnell for having me as part of the breakfast program for so long. I look forward to maybe one day working with you again.
Hi, this is Heidi Robertson from the Northern Rivers Vaccination Supporters. We are a group of concerned citizens dedicated to promoting good science and common sense in our region, the far north coast of New South Wales. This area, famous for its natural beauty and relaxed lifestyle, also has the lowest rates of vaccination in Australia. We are out to change that by challenging the myths and misinformation and by providing good evidence-based information to the community. We'd love for you, no matter where you are in the world, to join our fight. Please visit our webpage at www.nrvs.info. We also have a link there to our Facebook page. Tweet us at NRVaxSupporters, that's VAX, and check us out on Wikipedia by searching for Northern Rivers Vaccination Supporters. Thank you.
Skeptic Zone listeners. This is Susan Gerbic. The last weekend of March, I attended the 8th Annual Skepticamp in Fort Collins, Colorado. The talks were terrific, and they are available on my YouTube channel. Richard said he'll put up a link on the show notes. And after the lectures were over, I channeled my inner Maynard, and I did my best with some interviews, so give them a listen. All right, so I'm here talking to Hans, no relation with Clever, at the Fort Collins Skepticamp. We're all done. And Hans was talking to me about, he's been to TAM 8, he's been to some of the other Skepticamps, and he feels that this brings in a lot of new people. So why should people attend Skepticamps? What's the importance of doing something like this?
Well, for me, it's a fun place to find people that like-minded people who have various interests and things, instead of maybe just focusing on certain areas that a lot of skeptics might get stuck into or whatever. But it's like, I didn't even think about ghosts for the longest time. And here someone gave a great presentation about ghosts or Sasquatch or cold reading or alternative medicine or things like this, something that we just don't normally think about, and it gives an opportunity for someone to really come and give a presentation about something that they've actually spent more time thinking about and present it with us and spark interesting conversations, I guess.
So Doug Holland, he gave us a little bit of a talk on why people believe, and you had a lot of interesting insight. It was kind of more of a primer, I think, to the Skepticamp. I thought that was really important, that it had a little bit of information that didn't overwhelm us. You said, don't tell them they're wrong. Try to get them to realize it for themselves.
Well, that's true. Well, the thing you got to know is a little bit of psychology, because when you just tell someone they're wrong, they're not going to react well. I mean, if you attack someone's core beliefs, you have this well-documented psychological effect called the backfire effect, which causes them to entrench themselves in those beliefs even more, to come at it, say, through the Socratic mythology, turn it into a dialogue rather than an argument. Millions of people believe this stuff, and they're not stupid. I mean, you've got unscrupulous characters exploiting basic psychology and, pulling them in, and once they're pulled in, is really hard to pull them out. I mean, you confront them with basic facts, and they rationalize around these facts.
Wonderful. So, Michael, here at this Fort Collins Skepticamp, you've attended more than one Skepticamp?
This is my first one.
This is your first one? Have you been attending the different meetups in the past, like the Skeptics in the Pub?
Yeah, on and off, basically for 6 years, I think. 6 or 7.
Why do you think Skepticamps are important? Would you say that this is something that people should come out to? This is your first one. What do you think?
I think that most of the groups that I went, most of the times I go to Skeptics in the Pub, it's very casual. It's not really serious. But Skepticamp is kind of a mixture of the two, where a lot of these talks are very serious and they're needed. Yeah. Probably more than once a year, but I'll take it.
All right, thank you. So, Jay, is this your first Skepticamp?
Yes, it is.
And what brought you out here to this one?
Well, I live in the Fort Collins area, and I've been looking forward to it all year.
Really? So we have conferences all year. You can always come out to these other ones. But so, what do you think? Did you learn anything that made you go, "Whoa, I didn't know that"?
Yeah. The psychic readings, like the cold readings and everything like that, is kind of amazing about how he demonstrated. I don't know. That was pretty incredible.
So when somebody says to you, "There's no way anybody could know that," now you know how to answer that, right?
I say I doubt it.
Yes, there is. So anything else appeal to you today that makes you want to come out to maybe give your own lecture in the future?
I love the sense of community, for sure. I think that's the one thing I envied about religious meetings. Like every Sunday, you have that sense of community there.
Yes.
And since I fell from my own religion, I miss that sense of community. And here, it's it's better and it's real.
We just need a good song or something, right?
Yeah, exactly. A good Skeptics creed or something.
So I see over here in the corner one of my fellow travelers, Mark Edward.
Oh, hi. How's everybody out there?
So, Mark, this is your second Skepticamp at Fort Collins.
Yes, it was. It was very good. A lot of very interesting people, and they're still talking right now.
Did you hear any kind of lectures that made you really go, I didn't know that? That was really interesting. I had no idea.
They were all very good. All very good. I always learn a lot, and I take a lot of mental notes because it's like listening to a really good comedian. I just don't have time to jot down all the good jokes. I just kind of get an overall feeling. But I really learned a really impressive word today that I'm going to be using in my seances, which is called, what was that? We wrote it down, didn't we? That drug? Hold on. You guys will love to hear this word. You can look it up, and it sounds so magical. Muriate of natrium. And you know what it is? Table salt.
That was great. Thanks, Mark. I highly encourage everyone to make an effort to attend a skeptic gathering this year. Remember, for every event a skeptic attends, an angel gets its wings.
Hi, this is Ben Radford.
And this is Pasquale Romero from the Squaring the Strange podcast.
Every week, my co-host and I cast a skeptical eye at a different topic.
Monsters, ghosts, demons, mysteries, and even current events are dissected and discussed with a fun, unscripted, and skeptical take that you're sure to enjoy.
Find us at squaringthestrange.com, iTunes, or on your favorite podcast platform.
March for Science, Australia, Saturday the 14th of April 2018. A global event bringing together people from all walks of life who believe we need more evidence and reason in our political process. This information comes to us from marchforscienceaustralia.org. Science, not silence. The March for Science celebrates the public discovery and understanding of scientific knowledge as crucial to the freedom, success, health, and safety of life on this planet. We are a nonpartisan group marching to demand action in the following areas: literacy, communication, policy, and investment. Universal literacy. A well-informed community is essential to a free and successful society. We support education to promote broad public knowledge and discussion of scientific work. As professionals, parents, and community-engaged volunteers, we enthusiastically contribute our time and expertise to helping children and students from all ages engage with the physical, universe, and biological world. Open communication. Publicly funded scientists have a responsibility to communicate their research and public outreach, and accessibility of scientific knowledge should be encouraged. Communication of scientific findings and their impacts must not be suppressed. Informed policy. Public policy should be guided by peer-reviewed evidence and scientific consensus. Public policy must enable scientists to communicate their publicly funded research results and must support literacy in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Stable investment. A long-term strategic approach to investment in scientific research and development is essential for driving true innovation. Government commitment to stable science funding policy will deliver solutions to complex challenges, promoting prosperity for all. The site goes on to say our acknowledgement. Science belongs to everyone. It should be pursued for the benefit of all people and for the health of the environment we depend on. At March for Science Australia, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of the Australian continent, the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, and pay our respects to ancestors and elders both past and present. We recognise that science and scientific pursuits have been used in the past to disenfranchise many minority groups. We are committed to the promotion of science now and into the future as an endeavour which all persons have the right to pursue and enjoy the fruits of, regardless of age, gender, ethnicity, disability, sexual orientation, religion or lack of belief, political affiliation or socio-economic status. Diversity has strengthened and enriched scientific inquiry, and the inclusion of all peoples and the promotion of equal opportunity and training within science should be a goal pursued by scientists and non-scientists alike. Now, the website has a link there for the various marches for science around Australia, and I will mention the one in Sydney briefly because that's the one the Skeptic Zone will be at. Maynard and myself and maybe some more reporters and more members from the Australian Skeptics should be there. The details, this will be at Martin Place at the Phillip Street intersection of Martin Place, Saturday, the 14th of April, 2018, and it starts around midday. There will be a rally and talks, as was the case last year when the Skeptic Zone turned up to do interviews. At the end of the march, the word is to meet and mingle in Hyde Park with fellow science supporters. Now, if you come along to the March of Science in Sydney, if you look up towards the speaker area, mingling around there somewhere, you should be able to spot myself, Maynard, and maybe some more people from the Skeptic Zone or the Australian Skeptics. And if you want to come up and say hello, that would be great. Maynard will certainly be looking for people to interview, scientists and citizens alike. But check out that website, links in the show notes, and you might be able to find a March for Science in your area. Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone. Oh, that blue ribbon ice cream on a hot autumn day is fantastic. Coming up next week on the Skeptic Zone, I hope to bring you reports from March for Science. I'll be running around, and so will Maynard, with our microphones, trying to score interviews with famous scientists and not-so-famous scientists and people in the street and a passing dog and anybody who cares to talk to us. And again, if you see us there, come up and say hi, and who knows, you might end up on the Skeptic Zone. Thanks again to Susan Gerbic for sending me a little on-the-spot report from Skepticamp. I wish I could have been there. I do enjoy Skepticamps. They're very informal and a lot of fun. Thank you again to those people who continue to support the Skeptic Zone. I've just picked up a new Patreon supporter in the last week, in fact, and that supporter will be expecting a little thank you from me in the post. If you subscribe or you support over a certain amount, you get little goodies. I think it's time for me to run downstairs and have some more ice cream, actually. I'll do that. But for this week, this is Richard Saunders signing off from Sydney, Australia. You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Please visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for show notes, contacts, and to access the back catalogue of episodes going back to 2008. You can follow the Skeptic Zone podcast on Twitter at Skeptic Zone, visit our Facebook page, or leave a review on iTunes. You can also support the Skeptic Zone via Patreon or PayPal. The Skeptic Zone podcast is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed on the Skeptic Zone are not necessarily those of Australian Skeptics or any other skeptical organisation.